So today I'm going to show you how to animate a list, and it will look something like this when you add stuff, list items transition in, also when you remove them, and with an extra bonus of when you reorder the list or sort it, the layout changes will transition as well. So this is doesn't only look nice, but also can be useful for giving a better understanding of what's going on with the list. So if we remove some animations and we look at it, it's quite hard to track what's going on in the list, what items get added and what items get removed. So yeah, so they kind of blink in and out of existence. But with animations, yes, much better. Anyway, let's jump in. Start from scratch, create a new code sandbox. Start with a rect template and add our dependency when it loads, called framer motion, which is my favorite library. GSAP is also good, which is Screenshot animation platform. It's great for like long timeline, very sequenced animations, but framer motion works better with React and these transitions. Okay, so anytime now. Okay, here we go. Add our framer motion and start with an array. Constant items equals 1, 2, 3. So this is our initial items, let's call it. And let's create a state for it. Items equals use state, and let's start with the initial state, initial items. And now let's map through the items, map item string returns the same h1 with the item string in the h1. Okay, so now let's add some buttons to manipulate our list, or create a container for it. Buttons. add, remove, sort, and reset. So adding, click handler for adding, on click equals handle add. Let's create this function, constant handle add. Let's clear our console here. Okay, now we can start adding stuff. So on click, we will set items, use the initial items, create a copy out of it, and add something in front called new one. It only works once. Let's actually add in a library. So we want some unique names here, and yeah, let's use a library for it called Faker. Get some names. Faker. Yes. No idea which one is it. Maybe this one. Import Faker. Okay. Could not fetch dependencies. Maybe it's not the right one. Faker.js. Nice, just called Faker. Faker from Faker. Fake. So hopefully this has some types with it. No, nope. Okay, so this is how we create names. Const name equals a function that returns a random name. So now we can use it here, for example. And we need to spread this one. Yeah, that was the problem as well. And why not use the names for the initial state as well? Create an array of size 3 and spread it so it creates empty objects in it, and that through it. For each item, let's call the function name. So now we should have it for the initial state. Let's refresh it if it works. Looks good to me. Let's create a reset function. Handle reset. Use the initial state. Create a new copy out of it because we don't want to mutate the initial array. Just create a copy and find the function here. Yay, it works. Okay, now for removing. Handle remove. Set item should be new items equals should be also a copy, but with it's actually used like this. So as with object destructuring, you can take out, for example, the first item there and then have the rest also. Should be this way around actually. So you have the first and you have the rest. We don't need the first, we want the rest. So we can just do it like this. And delete this variable because we don't need it. The comma says that, okay, the first is ignored and the rest is the rest, I guess. Yeah, if that makes sense. So now we can remove stuff, we can add stuff, and let's also add a sorting function. We need to map this to a state. Use is sorted, set is sorted to a use state on the initial state should be false, and click sort on click should be handle sort, and this should be just flip the state. Set is sorted to the reverse of is sorted. Okay, and now have the sorting state. But we also need the sorting function. So sort and the sorting function should be, let's create a new function called sort. I don't know. Const sort equals the return is 0, so it doesn't sort anything. See if everything still works. Okay, we need some keys here also. Key equals whatever item name, so it doesn't complain. Currently sorting does nothing, but if So we need two ways of sorting here. One way, when the sorting state is false, then we shouldn't do anything, but when it is true, we should sort it. So if is sorted, is sorted, if it's not sorted, then return 0, and this is a card statement, if statement. So anyway, if it is sorted, then this gives in A and B comparison. So A dot, which should be a string, this should have a native function called compare. Let's actually see if the IDE helps us here. Local compare, yes. Compare it with B and return this. So now sorting does not work. I think we need to create a copy of it and sort that, because then we're not mutating the state. So now sorting works. Yay! Okay, now how do we create animations? How do we create animations? We import in framer from framer motion. We import in motion. This is the correct component. Add in our motion h1, add in some animations. Let's actually separate it into a new component so we can have state for this motion component. Item, let's call it, and return our h1. Whoa, don't need that. And return items from here. Item, we need the key here, pass in our item here, and receive the item as children. So now we have it in a different component, and we can start adding animations to it. So for sorting, there is this easy way of adding layout animations called layout. We just add one prop and when you sort it, the layout changes get the transition, which is already pretty nice. We also want to adding and removing, so we need to wrap it in a animate presence. So we have these nice hooks to unmount, still do the transition, not unmount it instantly, but have this hook that directs unmounting, and this gives us new properties that we can use. First one is initial. Let's actually separate this into a different object, so it would be easier to handle. Animations equals initial. So this should be an object. Maybe just add scale for now. So initially it will be scale 0. When it transitions in, so the end state should be animate, scale 1, and when it exits, exit prop should be scale 0 again, and we can now spread these animations as props. So now when you remove items, there's this fishy delay here, because the item itself gets a scale transition applied to it, but for the layout, it's still the same, so it still takes the space, so other layout elements can't really transition to that space because it's being occupied by the exiting element. So how do we get past this? It's a bit tricky, but it can be done. So what you would expect is that when you apply a position absolute on the exit, then the item doesn't take layout space and other elements can transition properly and use that space. When we try to use it, it doesn't really work correctly. So if we apply position absolute here for the exit prop and we remove it, for one thing, the item position is doesn't center anymore because of the position absolute. So if we add a background yellow, for example, we can see that let's actually use a semi-transparent, so it's better to see. RGB 8255, so yellowish at half transparency. So if we remove it, we can see that it doesn't take the full width, it just takes the text width. So let's apply a width of 100%. So when it's in position absolute, it still takes the full width like initially. But now we can see that the other elements don't transition. So why is that, and how we can fix that? I think this is because when the element exits the React lifecycle, so it's officially removed from the React manage state, then the properties won't update and the other elements have no way of knowing that something has changed. So I think that's why it is, but anyway, I will show you how to fix it. It's basically these animate presence animation properties. They have they are called automatically. So when the component exit transition is complete, it gets removed from the DOM, but we can also hook that in manually using use presence. So if we actually, there's two hooks. One is use presence, and we actually want use is present. So this gives us a Boolean value of is the item leaving or is it in the DOM. So we can just is present, use this hook to get this Boolean value, and we can apply this position absolute manually, and this should work. So position equals, move this from the exit. So if it is present, it should be, I think it was static default value, and if it's not present, then apply position absolute. Let's see if this works. Yep. So now if we have lots of things, the position absolute gets applied correctly. And yeah, now we can start playing around with it, adding, opacity, stuff like this. Maybe add a transition. What were the values? Was it tension? I'd have to look it up. Framer motion docs. Animation type spring. I always forget it. Type spring has stiffness and damping. So stiffness 500, damping 50. So we can start playing around with different values. maybe add a type here as well. Spring. Okay, now it works. I think, yeah. So now it's much more stiffer. So you can start playing around with it. Basically, I'll now go ahead and add some style to this list. One thing we should also add before is just removing items one by one. Handle remove self. So if we click on an item, on click should do call handle remove self, and we should pass this down. So when I click on an element, this on click gets called, and it is fine that to handle remove self. And let's actually call this with the item string, so this can be removed accordingly. So set items, create a copy out of items and filter them based on string of the item name, let's say, or name. And if the name is the same as the item name, let's call it as it's passed from here, then we should not filter it out basically. So now when you click it, we can remove these items. So now, because I like things to look nice, I will go ahead and add some CSS to it, tweak around with the springiness and the animation value so it would feel nice. So that's pretty much it. If you learned something, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll post some other videos soon, and also check out my tweet. I post some interface stuff here also. If you see something that you like, it would be cool to create a tutorial on that as well. So thanks for watching, and bye.